Bruce, the Canadian marijuana stocks have been on fire lately, especially after Consolidation Brands took a stake in Canopy Growth Corp. So what do you think the impact of this agreement is on the sector?
Yeah, so it's obviously had a huge impact on the sector. I mean, you can tell from the stock prices right away. What we, sort of expected that this would happen, probably not as fast as it has. We thought that, we would probably get into a recreational situation, and then we would start to see some of these alcohol and tobacco companies, maybe a biotech company come in and enter the market. So the Constellation deal certainly happened a lot faster. As far as sustainability goes, we think there's probably going to be a lot of news flow, both from a macro standpoint, but also from an individual company standpoint over the next several months, especially leading up to rec. And so, we think that there's going to be ebbs and flows to the market. So, certainly investors want to be careful, and they want to, pick their spots and probably, not be too greedy, because these are stocks and they tend to trade up and down.
So do you see a marijuana consolidation movement happening anytime soon? And if so, which companies are most likely to be merged or to be acquired?
Yeah, so as far as the landscape goes and how all the provinces deal with distribution, that's where I think there's an opportunity for a lot of M&A, because depending on what the different provinces do, if they limit the distribution in their province to only producers in their province, then you're probably going to see some M&A happen quite quickly, because some of the larger players will want to have distribution in those provinces, especially if they're a bigger province, and so that'll cause them to step in. I think as we get towards rec, there's also going to probably be potentially a frenzy there to try to get distribution, get supply, because as we sort of look at it right now, there's probably a good likelihood that the amount of production isn't going to meet the amount of demand that is forecast right now. That'll certainly grow into the supply over time, but it's going to take time for a lot of these licensed producers to get their facilities up and running and actually built out and growing at at a commercial rate.
So the TSX have recently warned about delisting some marijuana companies, Canadian marijuana companies, because of a violation of the U.S. cannabis law. So which companies do you think are in a risk of being delisted? And if this happens, what kind of impact do you think this will make on the Canadian marijuana sector?
Yeah, so the company that's probably the most in focus is Aphria. They have a U.S. asset as well as Canadian assets, and so they're the ones that when the news first came out, everyone was most concerned of. It seems like that's gone away to a certain degree. If you just look at the stock prices, certainly I think that they will have solutions and have options on what they could do. There's lots of speculation now. Do they spin that asset out? Do they dividend it out? Do they move to a new exchange? So it's not like they won't have options. Certainly, though, if it did happen where the TSX came and said, look, we're going to delist you, it certainly does put a small dark cloud over the industry in Canada. I don't think it's a significant thing, especially considering that the majority of the companies listed now aren't on the TSX.
You've talked to us about Canadian energy stocks before. Now, with the recent gains of the WTI crude price, what do you think the outlook of the Canadian energy sector is?
Yeah, so we've had sort of increasing and decreasing amounts of exposure to the energy sector over the last couple of years. Coming into the summer, we were probably one of the lower levels of energy stocks that we had, and then just looking at some of our processes, both from a bottom up and also from a technical standpoint that we watch, we started to see more interest in the Canadian energy sector, and so we started to add some names to the portfolio. We have about a market weight right now in energy, and they've done really well. We tend to be sort of more small cap focused and sort of more growth focused. So some of the areas and some of the names that we've looked at adding recently is we've owned Yangara for quite a while. They continue to execute very well. We've added some of the service companies, so we've had Calfrac and Trican both in the portfolio, and then another one that sort of under the radar a little bit is Avita Transportation, and what they do is they're in the rig moving business down in the U.S. And if you look at the rig numbers in the U.S., not only has it been fairly steady, but as the price of West Texas starts to rise, there's more activity in the U.S. And so these guys get paid basically to move rigs, and they really specialize in that business. It's a pretty fragmented business, and they continue to gain more and more market share. So that's one that we like as well.
Great. Now let's talk blockchain. So blockchain is this another really hot topic in Canada right now, obviously. But there are a lot of mixed opinions out there. They like it or they don't like it. They think it's a fraud. So what is your opinion on blockchain as a whole?
Yeah, so I think probably depending on if you like it or if you hate it, probably has a lot to do with your understanding of it.
Yeah.
It is fairly complicated for most people to kind of grasp and understand, and there's so much going on right now. It's a sector that I think will end up being huge over time, and there's going to be lots of winners and lots of losers. It seems like right now, there's a lot of people who are sort of capitalizing on the euphoria there, and throwing out these ICOs that aren't necessarily have a utility to them, but are more investment vehicles. And so, it's a sector that I certainly think investors have to be cautious of and wary of, how much, due diligence they've done to make sure the company is good. That being said, there's going to be some applications here that, that roll out that'll probably revolutionize the way we do business. So, 5 or 10 years from now, contracts and middle parties are probably going to completely disappear as we use blockchain technology.
It'll change the way that we live everyday lives as well.
It will, as far as business and technology goes.
For sure. So are there any other stocks that you're currently interested in that you haven't talked to us before?
Well, on the technology side, there's some interesting companies right now. There's a company that I'm not sure if I've talked to you guys about before or not, but they're in the asset tracking business. The company's called Beware, and basically they have a couple of different products for tracking assets. And so they started initially with Bluetooth, and now they've gone into the low-powered wide area network. So it's effectively a cellular chip or a cellular SIM card that's embedded into a tracking device, and they can use it for a number of different applications. Maybe you're a moving company and you want to put it on a container. They've signed a deal with Brinks, and they have those on the trucks and all the guards. So there's lots and lots of applications for this. They've signed, this is a small little Canadian company, and they've signed 2 gigantic deals with Bell and Huawei. So you don't see that very often. So it's one that we own, and we think that they're sort of on the cusp of something that's going to be really big as they get these approved and get into the U.S., especially with the carriers. It allows the U.S. carriers to take their business to a next level as well. All of us have cell phones, but there's only so much saturation that we can all have cell phones. The next area of service that they're going to have is, they're going to start having asset tracking on a cellular basis. And so, all the carriers are going to ramp up their revenue, and Beware is one of the companies that's going to do that for them.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Bruce.
My pleasure. Thank you.